Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Yes, we are back, and we made it finally to the end.
the end of the show, just like the end of the life of JFK.
It's a good one. Okay, it took a long time to drag that one out of there, but yeah, the end of the JFK saga. It took a little bit more than we anticipated. Thought it was going to only be 3 episodes, but a lot of conspiracies. Last week we covered
bullshit conspiracies.
Yeah, there was a
That's
bunch
what
of
it
bullshit
was.
conspiracies. Basically, anybody came out of the woodwork and was like, well, I think Tommy did it from Long Beach or something stupid like
Well,
that.
like we said, we leave no stone unscathed.
But we did cover the magic bullet theory, the grassy knoll, and the multiple shooter theory, which are the probably 3 most common ones outside of the
and
couple,
the Dark Man or wherever it was. I'm not putting no.
Prayer Man.
That's not. That gets no.
A couple other ones that aren't
no merit here.
I would say the 3, the magic bullet, the grassy knoll, which could be in the second shooter theory, but the second shooter theory is actually from the Dell Tech building.
Right.
Covered those, and then this one will cover a little bit of Cuban and Mafia, Cuban/Mafia/CIA involvement, because all 3 of them may be working together. And maybe a little bit of Federal Reserve. Also, another prominent one that Johnson was the one that initiated the hit. So we got those 3.
It's a combination of all those 3. That's the answer.
Pretty much, right. Yeah, we'll cover those, and then we'll end this long one. We haven't done a 4-parter since Wyatt Earp, way back when, 2 years ago now. You guys believe this? We're coming up on 2 years of this show.
2 years
How
of
is
garbage.
that possible?
What the hell?
2 years of Outlaws and Gunslingers, and 2 years of negative reviews, baby. Yes.
Yeah, if you listen to this show, you're about to be stupider than ever.
These guys mispronounce names.
You can't replace a swear word with every adjective. Is that what it says?
Of course we can.
Yes.
We left off last episode with Ruby talking about his connection with the mob, and then we'll get into the mob's connection with the CIA and maybe even Cuban leader Fidel Castro, because we got government documents revealing that some members of the mafia worked with these are government documents now, saying they worked with the CIA on assassination attempts against Fidel Castro.
Of course they
we've all known that. Summer of 1960, CIA recruited ex-FBI. See, that's why we're the greatest out there.
Great.
Ex-FBI agent Robert Maheu to approach the West Coast representative of the Chicago mob, Johnny Roselli.
Okay.
When Maheu contacted Roselli, Maheu hid the fact that he was sent by the CIA. Of course he's going to see a mafia guy.
Right.
Instead of portraying himself as an advocate for international corporations. He was supposed to do that, maybe?
I like the word mobby. We're going to use that.
A little mobby. You're a little mobby right now.
Mobby.
He offered to pay $150,000 to have Castro killed, but Roselli declined any pay.
That's it.
He said, I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
Roselli introduced Maheu to 2 men he referred to as Sam Gold and Joe.
Oh, I guess he didn't know he's a CIA guy.
Right, obviously.
I was going to say, I don't need pay, but what I do need is immunity.
Like a get out of jail free card or something.
Get out of jail free for life card.
Right. 2 men he introduced him to Sam Gold and Joe. Sam Gold was Sam Giancana, and Joe was Santo Traficante Jr., Tampa, Florida boss, and one of the most powerful mobsters in pre-revolution Cuba. Wow.
Oh.
We'll get to him, I'm sure. Glenn Kessler of the Washington Post explained after Fidel led a revolution that toppled a friendly government in 1959, the CIA was desperate to eliminate him. Yeah, they don't have my interest. They're not going to be a yes country.
I bet you those people that revolutionized with Fidel Castro like 20 years later were like, what the hell were we thinking? I don't even think it took 20 years, did it?
20 years? No. People were migrating from Cuba like right after that, dude.
Like right after that.
But surprisingly, though, you had a lot of pro-Castro Cubans out there, too.
There's a lot of good thing that Fidel Castro was dead. We got to stop victimizing him. Done some good things.
Okay.
Everybody focus on the negative things in the world.
Okay, dang it.
I got a thing that represents society.
I'm society.
Me, I'm Shiny. I own everything.
What is that?
I own everything.
What are you doing?
That was what Kanye did.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see that?
No, I just seen the part where he said he liked Hitler.
No, yeah. And before that, he pulled out like a fishnet. It was a fishnet that he stood
Well,
up.
the dude was in a interview with a damn mask on. You couldn't even see his face.
It was a fishnet. He was like, you know what this represents? This represents the higher leadership in the music or something. And he's like, you're going to listen to me. And he's like, no, I'm going to listen to me. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. Alex Jones is sitting there like, okay.
When Alex Jones is the one that is
because
the calmest on the show, then
right. And he was like, well, I hope he plans on taking that mask off. So at this point, I don't even know if that's actually yay.
Right. Yeah, it's been a weird week with old Kanye. Yeah, and then he just tweeted, sorry guys, we're going off the show. Right. Keeping this in the episode. He tweeted, I think yesterday, that Chris Paul banged his wife, banged Kim Kardashian.
Right. I bet he did. Yeah. I think he's trolling everybody right now.
I don't think he's trolling everybody.
Yes.
But he knows what he's doing. Obviously,
right.
Doing it on purpose,
right.
for sure.
Definitely. He's saying all this shit about Nazis and all that going on Alex Jones. All for a reason.
I don't know. It could be messed up in the head. Can't deny that out there either. Well, he's done some pretty crazy stuff over the years.
Did he have a brain injury at one time?
No. Well, he did get in an accident and broke his jaw. Maybe it messed up his head a little bit, too.
So he could be a candidate for one of our shows in the future.
Right. There is a
the Kardashian massacre.
Right. There is a conspiracy that he sacrificed his mom.
Whoa.
To he got to right. Play the game. So
just like Kobe was supposed to sacrifice his daughter, and they're like, "Well, then we'll take you both out."
I don't think it was his daughter.
I think it was his firstborn daughter.
For voiceborn, it wasn't. He's got like 2 older daughters.
Oh, then it was somebody then.
The most talented one, probably.
Right.
I don't know.
And he was like, "No," and that's why he was flying the helicopter that day. He wasn't flying.
He did fly it.
Yeah. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he fly it?
Because he's not a flyer. Anyways,
he's a rider.
He's a rider, not a flyer. Washington Post says after Fidel led to a revolution that toppled a friendly government, the CIA was desperate to eliminate him. So the agency sought out a partner equally worried about Castro, which was the Mafia, which had lucrative investments in Cuban casinos. Let's say that's a good reason.
The Mafia was definitely scared of Fidel and his little group because they would do anything. And the Mafia was like, whoa, there's a code here, guys. And once they found out that the Cubans or the Mexican drug cartels, they don't follow that code, then they were like, oh, shit. I think that's when they started working with the FBI and CIA and all that shit.
Speaking of, that's an interesting thing I never thought about. How do the Mafia and the drug cartels get along nowadays?
They don't. I bet. There's no way. Or they have to in some sort, but they know.
I don't know. I would assume that you're going to New York or any of those territories, you're kicking up to the Mafia if you're doing shit in their territory.
Definitely. Still. I guarantee you the Mafia is still alive and well in New York.
There was just a mob boss killed a couple months ago right in front of his home.
Yeah, that's crazy shit there, bud.
Oh, we'll get to the Mafia, guys. Right. Got a little taste of it right here, and maybe we'll just get to it right after this episode.
Well, when Bill Bonanno's memoir, Bound by Honor, son of New York Mafia boss Joseph Bonanno, disclosed that several Mafia families had long-lasting ties with the anti-Castro Cubans through the Havana casinos operated by the Mafia before the Cuban Revolution.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Many Cuban exiles and Mafia bosses disliked President Kennedy, blaming him for the failed Bay of Pigs invasion. They also disliked his brother, Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, he was coming after the Mafia.
Who had conducted an unprecedented legal assault on organized crime.
But yeah.
Right. So the Kennedys were all, so this I'm telling you, you guys will get it here in a minute. This is the start of the real what happened. All the other garbage was a wasted 2 hours episode last time.
Well, no, because all that is still linked to this stuff.
Very true as well. This was especially provocative because several Mafia families had allegedly worked with JFK's father.
JFK's father, Joseph Kennedy.
Everybody knew Joseph Kennedy's past, guys. And they worked with him to get JFK elected. Don't worry, my boys.
In case you don't know,
my boy's good.
In case you don't know Joseph Kennedy's past, he was a early bootlegger and rum runner back in the day.
Right.
And obviously most rum runners and bootleggers had ties with who?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both the Mafia and the anti-Castro Cubans were experts in assassination. Of course they were.
Yeah. Well, I would say experts. They did the Mafia has done a lot of dirty hit jobs back.
I was going to say, not all the Mafia. They got their hitmen, and some don't have very good hitmen.
No.
The Cubans haven't been trained by the CIA, so they're pretty damn good.
Well, yeah. The CIA are taking the people that are leaving Cuba and training them to go back and assassinate Fidel or do something.
You ain't getting promised them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing we could probably look up right now. There was over 50 probably assassination attempts or either plans that weren't carried out to assassinate whatever his name is.
Yes. Fidel. Yes. That's true. Bonanno reported that he recognized the high degree of involvement of other Mafia families when Jack Ruby killed Oswald. Since Bonanno was aware that Ruby was an associate of Chicago mobster Sam Giancana. So, yeah.
When we get to Sam Giancana, I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. Some conspiracy researchers have alleged a plot involving elements of the Mafia, the CIA, and the anti-Castro Cubans, including Anthony Summers, who stated, sometimes people sort of glaze over about the notion that the Mafia and U.S. intelligence and the anti-Castro activists were involved together in the assassination.
Yes.
He says, in fact, there's no contradiction there. These three groups were all in bed together at the time and had been for several years in the fight to topple Fidel.
Clearly.
News reporter Ruben Castaneda wrote in 2012, based on the evidence, it is likely that JFK was killed by a coalition of anti-Castro Cubans, the mob, and elements of the CIA.
Yes, and there's more to that, though.
And that was in his, in his book, They Killed Our President, former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura concluded Kennedy was murdered by a conspiracy involving disgruntled CIA agents. I don't know if they're disgruntled, but anti-Castro Cubans and members of the mob, all of whom were extremely angry at what they viewed as Kennedy's appeasement policies toward communist Cuba and the Soviet Union.
That's just a part there, buddy. That's just a part there, bud. You're almost there, but we knew you weren't fully there in the head anyway. But you're getting there.
He didn't have chair shots back in his day.
Yeah, but he's still a little Kanye in it. Sometimes.
Well, he's completely turned the script now that he was all against the government. And then he was recently advocating to get the shot and all that shit. So who knows where he stands nowadays.
Carlos Machiello. Well, he allegedly threatened to assassinate the president.
You guys, I hope you're ready for our Mafia.
Yeah, it's going to be Moida.
Well, no, I'm talking about
Moida of the Whites.
I hope you're ready for this.
Moida of the names.
Carlos Machiello.
It's a Carlos Machiello.
The Machiello.
He alleged.
Oh.
Carlos Machiello allegedly threatened to assassinate the president to short-circuit his young brother, Attorney General.
His young brother. What up, young brother?
Attorney General Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
Who was leading the administration's anti-mafia crusade, which we said earlier. Information released in 2006 by the FBI, that's garbage, has led some to conclude that Machiello confessed to his cellmate in Texas, Jack Van Lanningham.
Hell of a name.
Damn right. He was an FBI informant.
Dude, why would you trust a cellmate when you're a mob guy?
Right. And this guy was using a transistor radio that was bugged by the FBI.
Oh, my.
He supposedly admitted to having organized Kennedy's assassination.
Organized.
And that the FBI covered up this info that it had in its possession.
What? The FBI covering up something? I don't believe it.
In his book, Contract on America, David Scheme
or Scheme, either way. I don't trust anybody named David.
Right. David Scheme provided evidence that Mafia leaders Carlos Machiello, Santo Traficante Jr., and Jimmy Hoffa ordered the assassination of President Kennedy.
First of all, Jimmy Hoffa wasn't a Mafia leader, so suck it balls out there. But
David Scheme cited in particular a 25-fold increase in the number of out-of-state telephone calls from Jack Ruby to associates of these crime bosses in the months before the assassination.
Wow.
And to an attempted confession by Jack Ruby while in prison.
He said he wanted to confess, but he was scared.
Right.
And he would only tell the truth, quote unquote, if he could be
saved
or guaranteed his safety.
Right.
Which they could not guarantee him safety.
No. David E. Kaiser has also suggested mob involvement in his book, The Road to Dallas. So
we don't care about the road to Dallas. Why do we care about the road to Dallas?
Right. So we got a bunch of informants in prison.
Well, one.
there's one, there's more.
Well, obviously. Investigative reporter Jack
gray hair.
Anderson concluded that Fidel Castro worked with organized crime figures to arrange the JFK assassination. But, see, this is weird. The CIA and everybody's trying to take out Fidel, but in the meantime, they're teaming up with him to take out JFK. It doesn't make any sense to me, to be honest with you. The whole Fidel being involved on it doesn't make sense to me.
Rid of Fidel for the casinos and all that shit down there, just like the mobbies. They are concerned with Fidel in control, and the CIA is as well. And then you got JFK trying to
take out the Mafia and Fidel.
Well, JFK wasn't even...
Unless the Mafia was like, screw it, we'll team up with Fidel to get the heat off our back in the States, so that way we can concentrate on Fidel afterwards.
Right.
I don't know, but they say that Castro worked with organized crime figures to arrange the JFK assassination. In his book, Peace, War, and Politics, Anderson claimed that Mafia member Johnny Roselli... Sorry, guys.
It's an overrated book here.
Overrated? Why? You read it?
It's overrated. We had to.
Okay. Well, Johnny Roselli gave him extensive details of the plot, supposedly. Anderson says that although he was never able to independently confirm Roselli's entire story, many of his details checked out.
Right.
He says, Anderson did, that Oswald may have played a role in the assassination, but that more than one gunman was involved.
Look, obviously, we've seen the video.
Roselli, as previously noted, had worked with the CIA on assassination attempts against Castro.
Right.
The History Channel program, The Men Who Killed Kennedy, presented additional claims of organized crime involvement.
Exactly.
Christian David was a Corsican Mafia member interviewed in prison in that thing. Apparently, okay, good for you, Christian David.
Right. He's in no involvement ever. Well,
they just find some random Mafia guy. Like, hey, what do you know about the JFK assassination?
Well, he's like, well,
I heard about it.
Guess what? I was offered the
yeah,
assassination contract on Kennedy, but that he did not accept it.
Why?
However, he said that he knew the men who did accept the contract.
Okay.
Gordon David, there were 3 shooters.
3?
He provided the name of one, Lucian Sarti. David said that since the other 2 shooters were still alive, it would break a code of conduct for him to identify them.
Oh, good for you. Still alive, and this is when? Doesn't say when he was interviewed, so interesting.
When asked
Maybe
what
that's why these records keep getting pushed back, the sensitive ones, quote unquote, right?
I told you. When asked what the shooters were wearing, David noted they were dressed in costumes such as official uniforms.
Their modus operandi. What's their mode of operation?
Much of Christian David.
So, okay, official uniforms could lend a little credence to the badge guy. Yeah.
Shit. Much of Christian David's testimony was confirmed by former Corsican member Michelle Nicole.
Hey, 2 first names.
Man, who was part of the DEA Witness Protection Program.
Okay.
The book Ultimate Sacrifice by Lamar Waldron and Tome Hartman.
I think Tom with an H.
That's
That's
probably
so dumb.
Attempted to synthesize these theories with new evidence.
Okay, well, the authors argued that government officials felt much obliged, to help the assassins cover up the truth because the conspiracy had direct ties to American government plots to assassinate Castro.
Exactly.
So maybe it was like like I said earlier, they had to get rid of Kennedy to get to Castro.
Right.
I don't know. Outrage at Robert Kennedy's attack on organized crime. Mob leaders had President Kennedy killed to remove Robert.
No, that's not at all. I don't like that one.
But Robert was still the secretary of, or attorney general or whatever when Lyndon Johnson was still president, wasn't he?
For a minute.
I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
So he started running for president by himself.
I don't know if he did run for president.
Of course he did. He was on a presidential campaign when he got killed.
Was he?
Yes. A government investigation of the plot was thwarted. A government investigation was, huh? The authors alleged because it would have revealed embarrassing evidence of the government involved with organized crime and plots to kill Castro. Yeah, because even if they're doing it to kill a bad guy like Castro, you can't be teaming up with the Mafia, dudes. It's not a good look.
They have been.
Well, obviously, but you can't be letting it known.
All right, 2003 Gallup poll indicated nearly 20% of Americans suspected Lyndon B. Johnson of being involved.
Well, that's a little lower than I would have imagined.
Right. Critics of Warren Commission have accused Johnson of plotting assassination because he disliked the Kennedys and fear that he would be dropped from the Democratic ticket for the 1964 election.
Oh, so he's like, this dude's not going to have me as his vice president running mate in the 1964 election, so I got to take him out. I need to become president.
According to journalist Max Holland, the first published allegation that Johnson perpetrated assassination of Kennedy appeared in Penn Jones Jr.'s book Forgive My Grief. That was published in May of 1966.
Self-published.
In the
Don't
book,
forget that. Dude's a self-made
millionaire.
hundredaire.
In the book, Jones provided excerpts of a letter purported to have been authored by Jack Ruby.
Well, because where did he get this letter that nobody else has it?
Well, he's charging LBJ with the murder of the presidents. Jack Ruby is, I hereby charge you with Moira. With his 1968 book, The Dark Side of Lyndon Baines Johnson, Joachim Yostein is credited by Bugliosi as being the
Clearly
first.
Bugliosi, but-
Shut up. As being the first conspiracy author to accuse Johnson of having a role in assassination.
Yeah.
He did.
Okay, good
He
for
did.
him. According to Jostein, Johnson played the leading part in a conspiracy that involved the Dallas oligarchy and local branches of the CIA, FBI, and Secret Service.
He definitely was not the leading part.
I guarantee, dude.
No.
If anybody, dude, if you
Not
look
the
at a
lead.
picture of Johnson,
Right.
he looks like a mob leader guy. So
Yeah, but
it
he's
wouldn't
not.
surprise me if he had ties and was the guy that orchestrated the whole damn thing.
He has ties, but I
Like,
don't-
we need to get this guy out.
Yeah,
'Cause
I don't think
we all
he-
know Johnson.
He didn't organize.
Johnson, number one.
He didn't orchestrate the whole thing.
Johnson wanted war in Vietnam.
Yes.
JFK didn't.
No.
Johnson wanted all this shit that presidents are known to want now.
Right.
He was the typical president. I
Right.
want money and I want profit and I want
Right. Right. You know, you got JFK's like, I'm exposing the corrupt government. They're like, no.
Well, others who have indicated there was complicity on the part of Johnson include Jim Mars, well, yeah, a bunch of people.
Right. He was complicit.
Right. Complicit.
Yes.
Meaning he was okay with it.
Right.
The fact that JFK was seriously considered dropping Johnson from the ticket in favor of North
He
Carolina
was.
Governor Terry Sanford should Kennedy run in 64 has been cited as a possible motive.
All right.
In 68, Kennedy's personal secretary, Evelyn Lincoln. Oh, remember that joke?
Yes.
Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy. And Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. Lincoln was in Maryland.
Lincoln.
Lincoln was in Maryland the week before his assassination, and Kennedy was in Maryland the week before his assassination.
Yeah, but the first part of that joke is actually true.
No, because there's no evidence that Lincoln even had a secretary named Kennedy. So-
Yes.
No, there's not.
There's evidence.
No, I've looked at the whole thing 100 times.
Have you?
Yes, trust me.
But there's multiple more other ones on there.
Of course, but
That
yeah, because we already went over it. The presidents got assassinated in the same year of ending in zeros or even years or whatever. Remember, because it was like Joe Biden's next in line. They said, remember, we just had it in the first episode. Well, it was like a month ago, so a lot of people don't remember that, but it was there.
I remember.
Anyways, what was it going? Kennedy's first secretary ever, Lincoln, Roner, Kennedy, and Johnson. What was I saying here, though?
I don't even know, bud.
Lincoln, Roner. Oh, in fact, last episode you had asked if Marilyn Monroe had died before or after Kennedy, and it was actually before 1962 she died. So,
Really?
yeah. So she was dead when he got killed already. So.
And that's definitely mafia involved there.
Right. Let me double check that because I'm almost 100% positive that's what I read the other day. She died in 1962, August 4th. So,
Wow.
yep. Almost more than a year and a half before assassination. So, yeah. So, remember, I wonder if he was like snooping around about that and got pissed about that and was like trying to take it to the mafia harder. Cause,
No, he was. Exactly what it was. Because I think Robert Kennedy had a little with the Maryland as well.
I'm sure she probably ran her out of everybody, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, Evelyn Lincoln wrote in her book, Kennedy and Johnson, that President Kennedy had told her that Lyndon B. Johnson would be replaced as vice president. So it was almost a foregone conclusion already, huh?
Right.
And the campaign trail was just about to start for the next election cycle. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this Lyndon one's getting a little steam, isn't it?
I mean, it's all leads up to the granddaddy of them all, which we're about to get to. Lincoln and Kennedy's conversation took place on the 19th of November, 1963.
3 days.
3 days before he got moited.
Oh, no.
And it was also recorded that evening in her diary. And it reads as follows.
Wow, so this is like written down.
Mr. Kennedy sat in the rocker in my office, his head resting on its back.
Oh, well, that was a good precursor. Huh? His head's going to rest on his back for forever.
He placed his left leg across his right knee. He rocked
he sat
slightly
like a
as
woman.
Right. He rocked slightly as he talked. In a slow, pensive voice, he said to me, "You know, if I'm reelected in 64,
Wow, that's a hell of a Boston accent.
I'm going to spend more and more time toward making government service an honorable career."
See, that's his problem. He wanted to act like serving in the government was an honorable thing, which we all know for 99% 9 out of 10 of positions aren't.
Right. He also said, I would like to tailor the executive...
They also say that the only really
I'm in the middle of a quote here.
The only real form of government where people feel fulfilled and actually can do something for the people is the local.
Yes, the mayor.
Local, not even the mayor. Lower than that, you're like township board trustees and shit like that. People that actually make a difference in your community.
Right.
Like, fuck everybody else. Mm-hmm. Those are the people you need to be worrying about.
Very true. He also said, I would like to tailor the executive and legislative branches of government so that they can keep up with the tremendous strides and progress being made in other fields. I'm going to advocate changing some of the outmoded rules and regulations in Congress, such as seniority rule.
Seniority, yeah. I can't be having people that are there for a long time that are making all the decisions, first of all.
Stupidity. He continues to do this. I will need as a running mate in 64, a man who believes as I do. Mrs. Lincoln went on to write, I was fascinated by this conversation and wrote it down verbatim in my diary. Now I asked, who is your choice as running mate, Mr. President? He looked straight ahead. Without hesitating, President JFK replied, at this time, I'm thinking about Governor Terry Sanford of North Carolina. I tell you right now, it will not be Lyndon.
Okay, well, she must have been a damn close secretary for him to be verified. Well, it's in her diary, so.
Oh, it's in the diary.
Why would you write it?
So it must be true.
Why would you write it?
That's true.
What motive would you have to just write this shit down in your diary?
To lie to yourself.
On the same day that it happened.
Lie to yourself, and then when you read it 20 years later, you're like, bitch, you lying. I didn't have
right.
Bitch, I was there.
2003 researcher Barr McClellan published the book Blood, Money, and Power.
Hey.
He or she claims that Johnson, motivated by the fear of being dropped from the 64 election and the need to cover up various scandals, masterminded Kennedy's assassination with the help of his friend Austin, which was an Austin attorney, Edward A. Clark. Not Austin, but Austin attorney.
Right.
The book suggests that a smudged partial fingerprint from the sniper's nest likely belonged to Johnson's associate Malcolm Mac Wallace.
Oh.
And that Mac Wallace was, therefore, on the 6th floor of the depository at the time of the shooting.
Oh.
The book further claims that the killing of Kennedy was paid for by oil magnates, of course, including Clint Murchison and H.L. Hunt.
They're a hell of oil names.
Right. McClellan states that the assassination of Kennedy allowed the oil depletion allowance to be kept at 27.5%. It remained unchanged during the Johnson presidency. According to McClellan, this resulted in saving over $100 million to the American oil industry. That's not a lot of money in oil, though.
Back then it was.
Not really. They were making billions still back then.
True. I mean, this is all part of it. They're getting there. I mean, it's all working. It's all one big clusterfuck of all kinds of shit. And I think the thing that sent him over the edge is what we'll get to here shortly. McClellan's book subsequently became the subject of an episode of Nigel Turner's ongoing documentary television series, The Men Who Killed Kennedy. I've never seen one episode.
Ongoing? Well, he's been doing it for 45 years.
All right. I mean, how many men?
Holy shit.
How many
1988 to 2003 and then 2003 and onwards.
Damn.
Well, there's only 9 episodes, though. So since 88 to now, there's been 8 episodes. I have to check it out because I've never seen this.
No.
Definitive account of American history's most controversial mystery. It's a British television network, though I don't like the British narrators, so I'll be not watching that.
Probably not.
Sorry. Anyway, and his name's Nigel. I should have known it was British anyways.
Episode The Guilty Men drew angry condemnation from Johnson's family. Johnson's former aides and former presidents Gerald Ford, who was a member of the Warren Commission.
Jerry.
And Jimmy Carter following its airing on the History Channel. The History Channel assembled a committee of historians who concluded the accusations in the documentary were without merit. And the History Channel apologized to Johnson's family and agreed not to air the series in the future.
Oh, History Channel, you're a fucking bunch of bitches, dude.
Of course they are.
Madeline Brown, who alleged she was the mistress of Johnson, also implicated him in a conspiracy. Oh! Well, that was in 82. Let's give her
No, that's what she looked like.
20-something years.
That's exactly what she looked like.
20-something years.
No, oh, my.
That was 20-something years.
JFK!
That wasn't JFK. That was Johnson, stupid.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, right. His wife's name was, what was her name? Lady Bird or some shit?
Yeah, sounds like that.
She kind of looks like the either the chick from Poltergeist or the chick from Murder, She Wrote.
Both.
A little bit, right? That's what I said.
Chick from both the guys is only like this tall, though.
Yeah, Madeline Brown, not good looking at all. 97, she said that Johnson, along with H.L. Hunt, had begun planning Kennedy's demise as early as 1960. Damn, so the year he got elected, like, we gotta kill him.
Right.
Brown claimed that by its fruition in 1963, the conspiracy involved dozens of persons, including the leadership of the FBI and the Mafia, as well as prominent politicians and journalists.
All true, which I agree with.
In the documentary, The Men Who Killed Kennedy, Madeline Brown and Mae Newman, an employee of Texas oil man Clinton Murchison, both placed FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover at a social gathering at Murchison's mansion the night before the assassination.
And I believe that as well.
Also in attendance, according to Brown, were John McCloy, Richard Nixon, George Brown, R.L. Thornton, and H.L. Hunt. R.L. Thornton, I've heard that. Who is he? American banker. Not surprised. Hey! American banker, baby.
Oh, boy.
What about Georgie Brown?
Same thing.
He was a Houston entrepreneur. Construction. Well, we know who has their hand in construction, right?
Yep.
What about John McCloy? Who's that? He was the Secretary of War. And during World War II, so
he looks like a corrupt bastard.
He does. Oh, wow. There's a lot of...
Did it say Rockefeller?
No.
Yeah, it said it's part of Rockefeller. John McCloy. Seen Rockefeller. Yeah. Succeeded by Rockefeller.
Succeeded as the chairman of Council on Foreign Relations by David Rockefeller.
So if, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we got a construction magnate, a banker. Wow. Okay. Supposedly at this party or get together, whatever you want to call it. Huh.
Madeline Brown claimed that Johnson arrived at the gathering late in the evening. In a grating whisper, told her that the Kennedys will never embarrass me again. That's no threat. That's a promise. That's what Lyndon B. Johnson said. In addition, Brown said that on New Year's Eve in 1963, she met Johnson at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin, and that he confirmed the conspiracy to kill Kennedy, insisting that the fat cats of Texas and the United States intelligence had been responsible. Brown reiterated her allegations against Johnson in 2006 documentary Evidence of Revision. In the same documentary, several other Johnson associates also voiced their suspicions of Johnson's. Yes, we know. Johnson's. Johnson and Johnson.
Oh, Dr. Charles Crenshaw authored a 1992 book, JFK, Conspiracy of Silence, along with conspiracy theorists Jens Hansen and J. Gary Shaw. Crenshaw was a third-year surgical resident on the trauma team at Parkland that attended to President Kennedy. Oh, wow. He also treated Oswald after he was shot by Jack Ruby. Damn.
Oh.
While attending to Oswald, Crenshaw said that he answered a telephone call from Lyndon Johnson.
Oh.
Crenshaw said that Johnson inquired about Oswald's status and that Johnson demanded a deathbed confession from the accused assassin. He's like, you better make sure he says he did it, right? Mm-hmm. Crenshaw said that he relayed Johnson's message to Dr. Shires, but Oswald was in no condition to give any statement.
Right.
Critics of Crenshaw's allegations state that Johnson was in his limo at the moment the call would have been made, and that no one in his car corroborated the call was made. Why would they? If you're in Johnson's car, I'm pretty sure you're going to be not saying nothing.
Right.
And that there was no record of such a call being routed through the White House switchboard. It's true, because you would have to have the White House switchboard, because it's not like there was, like, mobile phones.
Right, I was going to say. You tell me they had phone service in the...
Of course, dude.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is the president.
Right, of the United States.
You remember, he has all the shit that the... especially for communication that the military does already.
You ain't kidding. You ain't kidding.
Well, you should anyways.
But
then there was, during Reagan's little assassination attempt, remember W. Bush Sr. his phones were not working on the plane, right? Get the fuck out of it. But this guy's calling somebody from a limo, supposedly, in 63.
Right. I mean, well, who knows? Former CIA agent, Watergate figure, E. Howard Hunt, accused Johnson, along with several CIA agents whom he named, of complicity in the assassination.
Hunt is the mastermind, I believe, of the Watergate.
Right.
Obviously, this is Watergate figure, but he was the guy, like the lead guy of it.
He accused Johnson and several CIA agents of complicity in the assassination in his posthumously released autobiography.
After he died.
American Spy. My Secret History in the CIA, Watergate, and Beyond.
Ooh.
Referencing that section of the book, Tim Weiner of the New York Times called into question the sincerity of the charges, and William F. Buckley Jr., who wrote the foreword, said material was clearly ghostwritten. Shortly afterwards, an audio-taped deathbed confession, in which Hunt claimed first-hand knowledge of a conspiracy as a co-conspirator, was released by his sons. The authenticity of the confession was also met with some skepticism. Of course it was.
Right.
1984, convicted swindler Billy Sol Estes made statements to a grand jury in Texas indicating that he had inside knowledge that implicated Johnson in the death of Kennedy and others.
There's
oh, no.
Others,
Is there a Johnson death list and like a Clinton?
I'm sure there is.
Oh, shit.
I bet you every big politician has a kill list.
Right. Who's bigger? That's what they're trying to do.
Well, right.
Who's bigger?
Well, Hillary. And,
how many did you get this year, Hillary? It's
Hillary
been a slow
and-
year. It's only been 12.
Hillary and Bill racked up 250. We got to top that.
Right.
Historian Michael L. Kurtz wrote that there was no evidence suggesting that Johnson ordered the assassination of Kennedy.
No evidence.
Well, we were going to get the debunkers, right?
Right.
According to him, Johnson believed Fidel Castro was responsible for the assassination. Of course, he would blame it on the Cuban. And that Johnson covered up the truth because he feared the possibility that retaliatory measures against Cuba might escalate to nuclear war with the Soviet Union.
Oh.
2012, biographer Robert Carroll published his fourth volume on Johnson's career called The Passions of Power, which chronicles Johnson's communications and actions as vice president.
Okay.
And describes the events leading up to the assassination. He wrote that nothing I have found in my research points to involvement by
Of course
Johnson.
it does.
Political consultant and convicted felon Roger Stone, they had to put that in there, didn't they?
Right.
Believes that Johnson orchestrated Kennedy's assassination. Him and Trump fucking talk about it all the time. He also claims that Rafael Cruz, father of Texas Senator Ted Cruz, is tied to Lee Harvey Oswald as well.
It's very possible. Some critics of official findings theorized that George H.W. Bush.
Go on from Johnson. Now we're going to get to Bush.
And they believe that Bush was involved in assassination as a CIA operative in De La Plaza, which is, they're getting there. That's Bush is a part of it. Good job, guys. In the book of Plausible Denial, was the CIA involved in the assassination of JFK? That's where they said that. No,
That's the name of the book, clearly.
American attorney Mark Lane suggests that Bush worked out of a Houston office as a CIA agent at the time of the assassination.
Well, would have been his territory, old Texas.
In the book Family Secrets, Russ Baker contends that Bush became an intelligence agent in his teenage years and was later at the center of a plot to assassinate Kennedy that included his father, Prescott Bush.
Well, we know Prescott Bush
Right.
was a...
Yes. He's a bootlegger as well, too, wasn't he?
no, but he's got ties into the...
Prescott Bush. What happened? I know we've had something on him before.
Prescott. We have not had nothing about Prescott.
He was in another story about in the bootlegging shit.
Prescott is the one that founded Skull and Bones.
Oh, right.
At Yale and shit like that, dude.
Right.
Yeah, he's like the guy behind
Right.
the behind the scenes Illuminati quote unquote shit.
Right. Well, he included George H.W. Bush, his father Prescott, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, CIA Director Allen Dulles, and Cuban and Russian exiles and immigrants, various Texas oilmen. It's all co-creators of this assassination.
According to Mark Lane.
Right. According to Baker, Bush was in Dallas on the night before and the morning of the Moida. He probably was.
Oh, Russ Baker, right.
And that's why George H.W. Bush was assassinated or was put down with John McCain.
Crimes of...
crimes against humanity.
well, not that. Treason and all that good stuff.
Right. And then John McCain was put down.
Supposedly.
A little after
Military tribunes and all. Supposedly.
They're at Gitmo.
November 29, 1963, exactly 1 week after the assassination, employee of the FBI wrote in a memo that Mr. George Bush of the Central Intelligence Agency, quote unquote, was given a briefing on the reaction to the assassination by Cuban exiles living in Miami.
Okay.
So that's what he had enlisted. That's what he had enlisted as.
Oh.
Joseph McBride speculated that the George Bush cited in his memo was the future U.S. President George H.W. Bush, obviously, who was appointed head of the CIA by President Gerald Ford in what? Really?
Yeah.
1976, 13 years after the assassination. I had no idea that H.W. was head of the CIA.
Yes.
Okay, well, that explains a lot.
It does.
During Bush's presidential campaign in 1988, the memo resurfaced, prompting the CIA to claim that the memo was referring to an employee named George William Bush.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
However, George William Bush disputed this suggestion, declaring under oath that I am not the George Bush of the Central Intelligence Agency referred to in the memorandum.
He's like, hold on.
Wait a minute here.
No. No, damn it.
That's crazy. There was just happened to be another George Bush, number one.
1998, the ARRB constructed the CIA to review its personnel files of former President Bush to provide a definitive statement as to whether he was the person referred to in this memo. The CIA responded that it had no record of any association with the former president.
Of course.
During a 1963 time period. Nothing here, guys. On the website JFK Facts, author Jefferson Morley writes that any communication by Bush with the FBI or CIA in November 1963 does not necessarily demonstrate culpability in the assassination. And that is unclear whether Bush had any affiliation with the CIA prior to his appointment to head of agency in 1976.
Also, he's just appointed head of the agency without having any affiliation to him before 76. Suck my ball sack. So dumb.
Which makes me believe the previous.
In its report, the Warren Commission stated that it had investigated dozens of allegations of conspiratorial contact between Oswald and agents of the Cuban government, and had found no evidence of Cuban involvement in the assassination of President Kennedy.
I don't think there's
The House Select Committee on Assassinations also wrote, the committee believes on the basis of evidence available to it that the Cuban government was not involved. I don't believe that either. However, some conspiracy theorists continue to allege Fidel Castro ordered the assassination. No, shut up. Fidel, get the Cubans out of here.
Early 1960s, Claire Booth Luce, that's a hell of a name,
Right.
wife of Time Life publisher Henry Luce,
Okay.
was one of the number of prominent Americans who sponsored anti-Castro groups. This support included funding exiles and commando speedboat raids against Cuba. 1975, Claire Luce said that on the night of assassination, she received a call from a member of the commando group she had sponsored. According to Luce, the caller's name was something like Julio Fernandez. That's pretty specific.
Right.
What was his name? I don't know. Something like Julio Rodrigo Fernandez, born in 1985.
Julio Rodrigo Montego Artigo Fernandez.
Short hair, little scar above the eye. Or
Mustache.
something like that, though.
Right.
Something like that. And he claimed he was calling her from Nolens. According to Luce, Fernandez told her that Oswald had approached his group with an offer to help assassinate Castro. Oh.
Okay, Oswald was in New Orleans trying to strike up some well, no, he was pro-Cuba, though.
Yeah, he loved Castro.
Right.
Fernandez further claimed that he and his associates eventually found out that Oswald was a communist and a supporter of Castro.
Right.
He said, with this newfound knowledge, his group kept a close watch on Oswald until Oswald suddenly came into money and went to Mexico City and then to Dallas. Finally, according to Luce, Fernandez told her there's a Cuban communist assassination team at large, and Oswald was their hired gun. I don't believe it. Sorry, Claire.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Luce said that she told the caller to give us information to the FBI. Subsequently, Luce would reveal the details of the incident to both the Church Committee and the HSCA.
Oh.
Both committees investigated the incident, but were unable to find anything that mattered.
Of course.
May of 67, CIA Director Richard Helms told President Lyndon Johnson that the CIA had tried to assassinate Castro. Of course, how would he not know that?
Johnson's like, duh. Tell me something I don't know.
Helms further stated that CIA had employed members of the Mafia in this effort and that CIA plots to assassinate Fidel dated back to August of 1960.
Duh.
Back to the Eisenhower
At the
administration.
end of Eisenhower.
Helms also said that the plots against Castro continued into the Kennedy administration and that Attorney General Robert Kennedy had known about both the plots and the Mafia's involvement.
Obviously.
Of course, there's nothing new.
Separate occasions, Johnson told two prominent television newsmen that he believed that JFK's assassination had been organized by Castro as retaliation for the CIA's
Of course
efforts.
he's going to say that.
October 1968, Johnson told veteran newsman Howard K. Smith of ABC that Kennedy was trying to get to Castro, but Castro got to him first.
Okay.
When somebody says that it's all, you already know it's garbage.
Why is he just saying it? Just some random newsman anyways.
Right, it's garbage. September 1969, in an interview with Walter Cronkite of CBS, Johnson said in regard to assassination, I could not honestly say that I've ever been completely relieved of the fact that there might have been international connections, and reference unnamed others.
Hey, he knows the importance of others.
Finally, in 1971, Johnson told his former speechwriter, Leo Janos of Time magazine, that he never believed that Oswald acted alone.
Because he knows.
Johnson's got a... All right.
In 1977, Castro was interviewed by newsman Bill
Johnson
Moyers.
knew about this time that there's so much stuff out that he's got to he's got to acknowledge
Obviously.
something.
1977.
I mean, when you sit there and you're ahead of it, and then you end up being the president of the United States, there's going to be some questions out, and you're going to be the first ones asked. So you got to agree with something, right? Okay, they said there was more than one shooter. I'll agree with that one.
Put the blame on somebody else.
Right. Well, you know how everybody said there's more than one shooter, so he'll agree with that one.
Right. Well, at that time, the other committee had already came out and said there's maybe a probable thing that there was. So
that's why he went with that.
Right.
One.
1977, Castro
But he never really
was
said
interviewed
anything
by
about-
newsman Bill Moyers. Castro denied any involvement in Kennedy's death, saying it would have been absolute insanity by Cuba. It would have been a provocation. Needless to say, it would have been to run the risk that our country would have been destroyed by the United States. Nobody who's not insane could have thought about killing Kennedy in retaliation.
Yeah, and he's speaking to the God's honest truth there.
I think so, yeah. He knew Cuba would have been messed up. Russia wasn't helping.
Right.
When Castro was interviewed later in 2013, he said there were people in the American government who thought Kennedy was a traitor because he didn't invade Cuba when he had the chance, when they were asking him. He was never forgiven for that.
Exactly.
And I think he's telling the truth about that as well.
Obviously.
I mean,
sick men don't lie.
I mean,
to other people.
I mean, not to stick up for little Castro, but I mean, you know.
I mean, you can't say that. Castro's done a lot of good.
What reason would he have to lie, though? He could just say, yeah, I was behind it.
What are you
the hell is it going to do?
Right, what are you going to do? You see what I'm doing here? Well, I'm going to lie about that.
Right, you see, we're driving cars from the 1950s still in my country.
Fantastic.
Whatever.
Right. The Warren Commission reported that they found no evidence that the Soviet Union was involved.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
That's probably the only honest thing they said.
Right.
There might have been maybe like somebody.
Whatever.
The House Select Committee on Assassinations also wrote, the committee believes, on the basis of evidence available to it, that the Soviet government was not involved in the assassination of President
Okay,
Kennedy.
two things that said the same thing. Cool.
According to some conspiracy theorists, the Soviet Union, under the leadership of Nikita Khrushchev, was responsible for the assassination, motivated by the humiliation of having to back down during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't buy it.
Oh, shut up.
According to 1966 FBI document, Colonel Boris Ivanov, chief of KGB residency in New York City at the time of the assassination.
Why is there a KGB residency in New York City, but whatever.
Exactly. Stated that it was his personal opinion that the assassination had been planned by an organized group rather than a lone individual. Yes, it was an organized group. Maybe even Jackie herself. The same document stated, officials of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union believe there was some well-organized conspiracy on the part of the ultra-right in the United States to effect a coup.
Much later, the high-ranking Soviet bloc intelligence defector, Lieutenant General Ion Mihai Pasiba, said that he had a conversation with Nikolai
Russian mobs.
Suescu, who told him about the 10 international leaders that the
Russian
Kremlin
mobs in the
tried to
United
kill or kill,
Right? It's gotta be
including
Russian
Kennedy on that list. He claimed that among the leaders of Moscow's satellite intelligence services, there was unanimous agreement that the KGB had been involved in the assassination. Pasipa later released a book, Program to Kill. Yeah, whatever. Similar views of the JFK assassination were expressed by Robert Holmes, former first secretary of the British Embassy in Moscow.
Yeah,
Like I said, everybody's just the Kennedy assassination is so popular, and it remains so to this day, that anybody will just spew out some stupid little conspiracy there. Oh well, who had I think the Prince of Nigeria might have been a little mad that Kennedy didn't accept one of his requests to marry him.
Right. Yeah.
And his scheme email or
And then
whatever.
he was scared that Kennedy was going to tell everybody he was gay, so now he had to kill him.
Right.
David Lipton presented a scenario in which conspirators on Air Force One removed Kennedy's body from his original bronze casket, placed it in a shipping casket, while en route from Dallas to Washington.
And replaced with J.D. Tippett's body?
Once the presidential plane arrived at St. Andrews Air Force Base, the shipping casket with the president's body in it was surreptitiously taken by helicopter. So that's a stupid word to use. Just put it in a helicopter and flew away. Was taken by helicopter from the side of a plane that was out of television's camera's view.
Well, okay.
Kennedy's body was then taken to an unknown location, most likely Walter Reed Army Medical Center, to surgically alter the body to make it appear that he was shot only from the rear. He was definitely shot from the rear, but that one went in the back of his back, out his neck.
Part of Lipton's theory comes from a House Select Committee on Assassination report of an interview of Lieutenant Richard Lipsey on January 18, 1978 by committee staff members Donald Purdy and Mark Flanagan. According to the report, Lieutenant Richard Lipsey said that he and General Wale had met President Kennedy's body at Andrews Air Force Base. Lipsey says they placed the casket in a hearse to be transported to the Bethesda Naval Hospital. Lipsey mentioned that he and Wale then flew by helicopter to Bethesda and took the body of JFK in the back. Lipsy said that a decoy hearse had been driven to the front of Bethesda.
Oh.
With Lipsy's mention of a decoy hearse at Bethesda, Lipton theorized that the casket removed by Lipsy from Air Force One from the side of the plane, exposed to television, was probably also a decoy. Obviously!
Right.
And was likely empty.
Oh, clearly.
Jeez. Idiots.
Laboratory technologists.
How do they have 2 coffins on board of the plane anyways? Why do they even have one?
Right,
Do you think it's a mandatory thing?
They knew.
No, but do you think it's mandatory?
They have coffins.
Where you have to have a coffin just in case?
I bet.
You think so?
Yeah, might as well.
I would say, right?
Laboratory. All right, I would hate to see that as a president.
Right.
Damn. I could be laying in that.
Never know.
Laboratory technologist Paul O'Connor was one of the major witnesses. He supported another part of Dave Lipton's theory that somewhere between Parkland and Bethesda,
Bethesda, but whatever. I've only told you how it fucking is pronounced 7 times now.
Bethesda, that the president's body was made to appear as if it had been shot only from the rear. O'Connor said that the president...
How do you do that? How do you stuff a brain back in and make it look like there's nothing?
It's impossible.
Whatever.
O'Connor said that president's body arrived at Bethesda inside a body bag in a cheap shipping type of casket. It's a shipping type of
It's a
casket.
shipping type of casket.
Which differed from the description of the ornamental bronze casket and sheet that the body had been wrapped in at Parkland Hospital. O'Connor said that the brain had already been removed by the time he got to Bethesda. Damn. And that there were just little pieces of brain matter left inside the skull. Oh my, dude. Jeez.
Yeah, they took the whole braid?
I guess. Whatever was left of it.
Supposedly, right? Researcher David R. Rohn dismissed the theory that Kennedy's body was surreptitiously removed from the presidential plane, stating that, as is done with all cargo on airplanes for safety precautions, the coffin and lid were held by steel wrapping cables to prevent shifting during takeoff and landing in case of air disturbances.
Right.
According to him, the side of the plane away from the television camera was bathed in Klieg lights, and thousands of persons watched along the fence that bent, I'm sure,
Right.
that bent along the side, providing, in effect, a well-lit and very public stage for any would-be body snatchers.
Right, on either side.
Right.
So there goes that theory, motherfucker. Jim Mars, in his book Crossfire, presented the theory that Kennedy was trying to rein in the power.
Hey, you've been waiting.
Here it is. This is the nail in the coffin, boys. This is all the other
no
stuff
pun
we heard.
intended.
Oh, yes. All the other stuff we heard with Lyndon B. Johnson, CFA, FBI.
CFA, yes. It's a whole new one.
The mobbies and all those. Yes. And this is it right here, boys. And the bankers and all that. This is the granddaddy of them all, where they're like, you know what? Forget this guy. He's got to go. What you said? He's taking the convertible to Dallas. There we go. Jim Mars, in his book Crossfire, presented the theory that Kennedy was trying to rein power of the Federal Reserve, and that forces opposed to such action might have been played at least some part in assassination. He wanted not rein power of the Federal Reserve. He wanted to destroy the Federal Reserve and bring it back to the gold standard. That's what he wanted.
Yes.
According to Mars, the issuance of the Executive Order 11110 was an effort by Kennedy to transfer power from the Federal Reserve to the United States Department of Treasury by replacing Federal Reserve notes with silver certificates.
Silver, not gold.
Silver and gold.
No, just silver. Just clearly says silver.
And gold. Actor and author Richard Belzer.
Silver was way more plentiful than gold back then.
Actor and author Richard Belzer named the responsible parties in this theory as American billionaires, power brokers, bankers,
obviously,
working in tandem with the CIA and other sympathetic agents of the government. 2010 article in Research magazine discussing various controversies surrounding the Federal Reserve stated that the wildest accusation against the Fed is that it was involved in Kennedy's assassination. Well, you're an idiot, Research magazine. Critics of the theory note that Kennedy called for and signed legislation phasing out silver certificates in favor of Federal Reserve notes. That's not true at all. Thereby enhancing the power of the Federal Reserve. That's not true at all, you bastards.
I bet he did.
And that the Executive Order 11110 was a technicality that only delegated existing presidential powers to the Secretary of Treasury for administrative convenience during a period of transition. No! It's not true.
I guarantee if you look up shit that he signed in office, he did that. I mean, it's all public record. Why would this guy say it otherwise?
Right, but he was getting rid of the Federal Reserve. He was not in favor of the Federal Reserve.
If he called for and signed legislation phasing out silver certificates.
Wasn't going for silver. He wanted the gold standard back.
Okay.
Yes.
In favor of Federal Reserve notes.
No. I'm telling you, he did not want anything to do with Federal Reserve whatsoever.
Immediately following Kennedy's death, speculation that he was assassinated by a Zionist conspiracy was prevalent in much of the Muslim world.
Jeez.
Among these views were the Zionists were motivated to kill Kennedy due to his opposition to an Israeli nuclear program that Lyndon B. Johnson received orders from Zionists to have Kennedy killed.
Get out of here.
Zionists. And that the assassin was a Zionist agent. According to Michael Collins Piper,
I mean, that could be, but no.
Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion orchestrated the assassination after learning, oh, fuck off, dude. I'm so tired of this.
Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with that. That's garbage.
He says the assassination was a joint enterprise conducted on the highest levels of the American CIA in collaboration with organized crime and most specifically with direct and profound involvement by the Israeli intelligence service, the Mossad. Maybe.
Nah, I don't think so.
The Jews, dude. But you can't. Right, we got to skip over the Jews, blaming the Jews for anything. We'll be canceled.
I believe maybe a couple Jews were involved, like Meyer Lansky.
Meyer Lansky's like dead by now. Numerous other books and stuff published over the years include Reasonable Doubt, 1985, by Henry Hurt, who writes about his Warren Commission doubts. He pins the plot on professional crook Robert Easterling, along with Texas Oilman and the supposed Ferry-Shaw alliance.
Okay.
Also, Behold a Pale Horse in 91 by William Cooper alleges that Kennedy was shot by the presidential limousine's driver. Yeah, we didn't even get to that one where the driver came around and like bang, bang.
Yeah, I've seen that.
William Greer in the Zapruder film, Greer can be seen turning to his right and looking backwards just before speeding away from Daly Plaza. This theory has come under severe criticism from others in the research community.
I mean, it's possible, but...
Former Secret Service agent Abraham Bolden's The Echo from Daly Plaza in 2008.
You think Jackie Kennedy would have been like a big old loud pop
Something
right
happened
next to
right
my face?
and well, they had to go past the governor and his wife.
Right, so get the hell
So,
out of here. And plus there's people on bikes,
Right.
Secret Service and all that, right? Get out of here.
Former Secret Service agent Abraham Bolden's The Echo from Daly Plaza in 2008 and Kevin James Shea's Death of the Rising Sun in 2017 detail plots that occurred shortly before Kennedy's trip to Dallas in 63 and Chicago and Florida. Within the Secret Service during those chaotic months, rumors were flying about Cuban dissidents and right-wing Southerners who were stalking Kennedy for a chance to kill him. The security threat in Chicago in early November 63 involved former Marine Thomas Arthur Valley, who was arrested after police found an M1 rifle, a handgun, and 3,000 rounds of ammo in his vehicle. A high-powered rifle was confiscated from another suspected conspirator in Chicago shortly before Kennedy's trip was canceled. Authorities also cited similar threats in Tampa and Miami about a week later. I mean, it's the president. How many of those acts and threats and shit do they take care of and that we don't even know about?
All over the place.
Right.
Mark North's act of treason, the role of J. Edgar Hoover in assassination of President Kennedy, that was in 1991, implicates the FBI director himself. North documents that Hoover was aware of threats against Kennedy by organized crime before 1963. Of course he was. And suggests that he failed to take proper action to prevent the assassination.
Sure he
Norris
did.
Also
well, if you guys have been with us for a long time, you know that Boover always fails to do something.
North also charges Hoover with failure to work adequately to uncover the truth behind Kennedy's murder. Okay, this guy's just telling us what we already know.
Right.
Everybody know that J. Edgar was a terrible, terrible, terrible human being.
Yeah.
And a worse boss. Mortar Error, The Shot That Killed JFK, came out in 1992 by Boner. By Boner Menninger.
Bonner, yeah.
Bonner Menninger alleges that while Oswald did attempt to assassinate JFK, and did succeed and wounded him, but the fatal shot was accidentally fired by Secret Service agent George Hickey, who was riding in the Secret Service follow-up car directly behind the presidential limousine. The theory alleges that after the first two shots were fired, the motorcade sped up while Hickey was attempting to respond to Oswald's shots. And he lost his balance and accidentally pulled the trigger. He accidentally pulled the trigger of his AR-15, and the shot fatally hit JFK. Not from the back. He got hit from the forward. We know that. Hickey's testimony says otherwise. At the end of the last report, at the end of the last shot, I reached up to the bottom of the car and picked up the AR-15 rifle, cocked it, loaded it, turned it to the rear. George Hickey sued Menninger in April 1995 for what he had written in Mortal Error. The case was dismissed as the statute of limitations had run out. The theory received a public attention in 2013 when it was supported by Colin McLaren's book and documentary, JFK, The Smoking Gun. Stupid!
Yeah, dumb. Who Shot JFK? A Guide to Major Conspiracy Theories in 1993 by Bob Callahan and Mark Zingarelli explores some of the more obscure theories regarding JFK's murder, such as the Coca-Cola theory. What?
What?
According to this theory, suggested by the editor of an organic gardening magazine, Oswald killed JFK due to mental impairment stemming from an addiction to refined sugar, as evidenced by his need for his favorite beverage immediately after the assassination. He's like, I gotta get some Coke.
All right. All right.
I mean, that's probably a fun book, though. I bet you it's a fun book.
I bet it's hilarious.
Passport to Assassination in 1993 by Oleg M. Nechaparenko, the Soviet consular official and highly placed KGB officer who met with Oswald in Mexico City in 1963.
Wait, he met with Oswald?
I guess so. He was afforded the unique opportunity to interview Oswald about his goals, including his genuine desire for a Cuban visa. His conclusions were... Number one, that Oswald killed Kennedy due to extreme feelings of inadequacy versus his wife's professed admiration for JFK. Well, that's dumb.
That's stupid.
And that the KGB never sought intelligence information from Oswald during his time in USSR. They didn't trust his motivations.
Fuck all that shit.
I'm not reading any more of these goofy little books that are, like I said, just done. Just. I mean, come on now, dude. One saying a second gunman on the grassy knoll. I mean, come on. Who by this one, this one, Norman Mailer in Oswald's Tale, an American Mystery in 1995. He says that Oswald was guilty, but holds that evidence may point to a second gunman on the grassy knoll who, purely by coincidence, was attempting to kill JFK at the same time as Oswald. So him and Oswald were like battling it out, like who's gonna get the first shot off? Get the fuck out of here.
Oh my.
Oh, jeez.
Was there CIA, FBI, Mafia, maybe anti-Castro Cubans? Yes. Lyndon B. Johnson for sure. Was he the ringleader? I don't know, but I don't think so. Did Marilyn die because of JFK? Yes, that's the Mafia right there. I think she was in debt or something, wasn't she?
We don't know.
But
she wasn't in debt. She just
something happened.
Obviously, when you're a little intimate with the ladies, you're probably gonna spill some information out there.
She had a big mouth,
and I'm sure she knew some shit. So what better way to get some? Probably everybody in Hollywood and around her that knew her probably knew she was taking pills and shit already. So hey, when you're already on that path, it's pretty easy to make it look like you overdosed, right? See Whitney Houston.
my reasoning is the mobbies were pissed. Because John wasn't attacking Cuba. They needed to get rid of Castro because they're taking over their money laundering business over there, or their money making business over there. And then Robert Kennedy was going to come after them. And then the CIA was like, yeah, we need to do this. And then Lyndon B. Johnson's like, well, I want to be vice president still. And then the bankers and all that were like, well, what's this I hear about? He's trying to get rid of the Federal Reserve. And then Lyndon's like, yeah, that's fucked up. I wouldn't do that if I was president. He's like, well, sir, you are.
There it is. There it is, huh?
That's all boils down to, boys.
Honestly, on all of these,
I believe it has
regardless of who's behind it.
It has to do with the Federal Reserve. It has to do with the whole Cuba thing. It has to do with the mob.
Regardless of who's behind it, because honestly, it's still out there for me who actually fired shots and
right. I don't know who did the shot, but I know for certain
who orchestrated and was behind it.
I know FBI, CIA.
If I had to rank the most plausible ones, I would say the Lyndon B. Johnson one's probably first for me.
Right, not first.
No, it's first.
It's all part of it.
It's first.
It's all part of it.
It's first.
It's all part of it.
And once he figured out he was going to be shunned out and wasn't going to have that position no more, and then all the other shit came into it.
Yes.
So I think it started with Lyndon,
right?
But eventually trickled down to obviously he had to have somebody to do it,
right? And then
all this shit.
And then
the mob got involved.
And then Robert can leave well enough alone.
Well, until 1968, till he gets capped himself by Sirhan.
So this has been a long 4 episodes. We're going to end it with this one question.
Who killed JFK? We're the Monthly Michiganders with